guys, we're back, and what I've done so far, the last thing I did was I welded our brackets onto the trailer that hold the smoker in place. I've got the smoker plumb on the warmer to the trailer, and I've moved the whole trailer forward. I've got the trailer all leveled out and everything, and I did a little bit of work off camera just to kind of get things moving and get things set in place. I'm going to explain to you what I did. You'll see my red line is back over there, right? So, number one thing I did is I made sure that my cook chamber here was level and that my warming cabinet was plumb. That way this is clocked to that, right? Now, one thing that you'll see when you're looking at pictures on Instagram of anybody that's put a round firebox on a round cook chamber, it takes a lot of time and effort to get everything to be clocked and straight as a line. And the hardest part about it is when you're standing at the rear of the trailer, if you sight down this side and then you go to the other side and sight down it, one side or the other is going to appear to the eye to be off, or it's going to appear to have like this weird, perspective looking thing happening. It's really, really hard to sight that in. So we've got to use a few tools to get that right, okay? So what I did is I took that laser level from the back of this right here, and I shot down the length of this because remember it does a cross. So two things I did. I went ahead and scribed the level line across here just for reference. I'm not going to need it for really much. But then I also took my torpedo level and my center head square, and like I said, there's better ones than this, but this is what I got. I went ahead and marked top dead center on this end, and then I went over to the warmer end and I made the same mark on the tank, and I made 3 scribes down the vertical part of the warmer. Now here's the catch. Somebody in the crowd just laughed at me probably because they were like, how do you know that it's straight down the center of the thing? Okay, that's why I marked top dead center at this end of the cook chamber and on the other end of the cook chamber. And then what you have to do is that vertical line, I don't know if you can see it on the wall, I think it's back here in the corner. The vertical line on that laser, you line it up with using your center head square, okay? So you set this square up on there like that, right on your mark. And you might need a buddy to help you do this. My wife was here for a little bit, so I had my level up like that. And then I just sighted that laser right off the top, right off the edge of this level right here, okay? Off the edge of my square. Then, all I had to do was just slide the laser level this way, left and right, until it nailed my marks in the middle of my warmer, that vertical warmer there. So whenever you get that aligned, it's kind of like sighting in a bow, okay? If you ever did that, or sighting in a gun. What we're doing is we're just trying to get that long line to clock together. Once we got that, then we were able to sight straight up and down the center of this head. That's going to be really important for what we're doing here. The laser level right down here, okay, and that line was straight up and down. And what I did is I hit this center head square right here on this line, pointing at it, okay? And then I went down there to that end of the cook chamber and I made that mark over there also. Whenever I got the top dead center here and the top dead center over there, I was able to make that line go straight up that warmer with my level, okay? Then I took the laser level back here and I just basically put those two things in alignment from the edge of this square all the way to that line going up the center of my warmer there. Once I had that, I had a line that went straight down the cook chamber, right down the top dead center, okay? So then, once I had that, I marked that line vertically right here on this head. That's really important now because I'm going to have to know that so I can line the top dead center of this with that, okay? So right now I've got all of this in my way. I can't really put the laser up here. It won't shine through that strap. So I've got to use a mechanical device. So what I've got instead, I've got this 6-foot level right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 6-foot level to my advantage to try to line this stuff up, okay? So what I did is I marked top dead center here, and I marked top dead center here, okay? And then I lined this up on the edge, and I was able to hit my vertical marks right here. I was able to hit my vertical marks with that, okay? Now all I got to do is clock this to that, okay? So the easiest way to do that is just to take another piece of material that's really long and set it on the edge of this, like this right here. And then you measure it, you're going to have help doing it. So I got a stick of angle that I laid on here. And then you just measure from this angle to that level, angle to that level. Once you get that, you're in business, right? Because now we've got, this is clocked to this straight edge right here. And we know we're in alignment this way, and this is level. So I did use the laser level. The reason it's there is because I went ahead and double checked the top of my cook chamber to be level, and then I double checked the top of this firebox to be level, okay? So now, at this point in the game, I know I've got alignment with everything. This is perfectly level and straight. This is perfectly level and straight, and it's clocked to it, both rate turning this way and long ways like this, it's straight. So now I can go ahead and do what I did on the other end of the cooker when I was laying out that saddle. I can just take this piece of angle right here, and I'm gonna have to be a little bit creative because this strap is a little bit in my way. But we're gonna go ahead and bump this all the way around. If I can't fit that in there, then I'll just get a shorter object. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna run this up and we're gonna bump it and we're gonna make a mark. And then we're gonna move 2 inches and do the same thing. And we're gonna follow that all the way around. The goal is to get this head cut to where I can shove that firebox up to it. And then once I start moving this together, I can just start walking it down, a little bit at a time. So anyway, stay tuned. I'm gonna go ahead and get set up to make that next move. Now, you'll notice I'm not worrying really too much about getting exactly precise on there. What I'm doing is I'm actually I'm going under my angle here because I've got this weld in my way. I want to make sure that I don't screw that up. Actually allow a little bit much right there. Now, this piece down here is farther away, so I'm just going to mark this top piece now. It's the only thing I'm doing now. Go. There's our spot. Right there. See that? I want that. I'm off the tank now. So now I can go to the other side and make that same mark, and literally I can just do like this. I'm pretty steady with my hand. I can just like going to be my cut. So I've still got this level up here because I want to keep a straight line to here, so I know that I can see if it's moving that way. But now I got to move it. I'll put it back as soon as I mark this spot. Okay, I put my level back. I still got my alignment I'm looking for there. I'm going to have to switch to the other side of my angle as I'm marking. And you can use this angle like we were the other day and make sure that you're in the right spot. Rickrack wise. You know what I mean by rickrack. in there, I think. All right, guys, so I just checked again. We're still perfectly level on our firebox. Everything was stayed clocked the entire time I was marking things out. Basically, just to elaborate on what I just showed you with the other camera there, is we just took that angle, we repeated the same process we did the other night. The only difference is when that edge hits, mark the side of the angle that's touching, not this. Don't try to predict this side. Then make a mark here, and then that tells you how far to move down and make the next mark, right? So you just follow that all the way around. Now, all we're going to do is eventually this is going to come all the way back to this seam. That's how far in I'm going to notch. So I've already got my mark here. I'm going to be able to work with that. I'm going to undercut it a little bit just in case I screw it up, then I can trim a little bit more back. The good news is that it's not really critical on an offset like this where the height of that firebox is. I've got it up here about 2/3 of the way up is where the top of my firebox is going to be. But I'll be completely honest with you, I've mounted them up here before, not had any issues with the cooker running. So I've got room. If I screw that up, I've got room to come up. Now we're only going to cut on the cook chamber. We're not going to cut this firebox. We're just going to nest this thing in there. When we get it in place, then we're going to cut out the rest of the firebox. I'm literally going to just come in here and cut back to there, and then I'm going to cut that off at the seam all the way across, shove the firebox in, and we're going to be golden at that point. So anyway, here we go. Okay, now real quick, one thing to note. I said I was going to cut this off at the seam right there. I'm not going to just automatically cut it off at the seam. What I'm doing is I'm taking it a little bit at a time. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing cut back about to where this radius turns on the edge of the tank. Then I'm going to fit it and see what I like, if I like it or not. Then I'm going to trim what I need to trim. Then I'm going to pull some more meat out of it. There's a likely chance that I might have to put a radius in the bottom curve here to get my firebox in position where I want it. So that's why I'm not just going to cut it off at the seam, because then I would have to build it back up. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and trim a little bit of this out. But it looks like, as far as my top cut, it looks like I'm pretty dead on. So I got to move it over just a ounce. Looks darn close. Yeah, so now basically I can just follow this radius right here up inside until I get all this nested together. Then we can start trimming. So here we go. What I'm going to do to trace along the bottom, I'm going to use this center head square, and I'm just going to follow it on that head like this. And I'm going to use a point. I'm going to probably use like the edge of this just to get started on where I should be, because I can feel that with my marker. But before we do all that, we've got to get everything back in alignment here. This square, and I just followed, if you saw me, I followed this right here, and I had my number, and I just followed that number all the way around it. Turned out it was about 7.5 on here all the way. So, and ironically, it met up right where my other cut is here, where I started to come around. I did that just from experience. I know that's going to be pretty darn close. I'm going to have to bevel the crap out of this right here for that to dry up in there. I've noticed that though, when I've cut these, you'll wind up cutting 1/8 of an inch, and it winds up making a 1/2 inch gap. So you don't want to get in a hurry and cut too much out, because you're going to wind up with a big mess. See where we're at. So you can kind of see what we're doing. We're just taking a little bit at a time. We're in there far enough now that I can already see that this is gonna hit right on this radius where I planned it. All we gotta do is knock out a little bit under there where that seam, it's about that thick, so I quit cutting where it got thick. So basically I just need to just reaffirm my mark where I want it, get back under there and cut it again, and we're gonna be like a glove. I'm pretty excited. That's like dead on. Pretty good. That's it. Okay. I'm gonna have Joe come over here and hold this. Now I marked the arrow on the flat right here, and I marked the arrow on the head right up here, so that I can, on both sides, both quadrants, so I can line those up when I shove it back in there. That'll make it faster. I also traced that line so I can kind of see where I'm at as I'm going in. Now, when I go in all the way, it's going to hide that mark, but you know, I can get pretty close. All right, we're gonna go ahead and cut this out the rest of the way.